Hi, I'm Laura Childers, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. That was my first, endeavor into the mental health field. And I am also board certified in neurofeedback, a diplomat in QEEG technologies, and I also have a partner certification. So lots of different things that I've studied. All right, so we're going to talk today about the exhausted brain. And in the work that we do, it looks like a brain that has no energy. This person likely suffers from autoimmune struggles and other inflammatory conditions. And our clients, it looks like someone who either just can't stabilize, or it's someone who just keeps on going and going, not realizing that they're actually running on empty, especially if they're still in survival mode. In our work, these clients need some intense medical interventions along with all of the other interventions that we provide. And so we're looking at more of a multimodal idea of treatment for working with addiction and partners. With the exhausted brain, we're going to look at medical implications of long-term addiction and trauma. By training, I'm a psychotherapist, and yet the deeper that I get into this neuromodulation and looking at brains and looking at the energy in the brains and things like that, the more I realize how important the body is in the equation of recovery. I think it's something that can be easily missed if only looking through a lens of therapy. For example, I've worked with a teen who had chronic stomach aches. So she misses school, she underperforms, she has acting out behaviors and things like that. And so generally it's thought by her family that it's more psychosomatic. So I used my vagal stimulator on her, and the vagal stimulator will really put the nervous system into a parasympathetic state, or a place where it feels safe. And it calmed her down quite a bit, calmed all of her body down, relaxed her, except for her stomach. And so we began to go, okay, so what's going on with this stomach? Found out that she actually has chronic pancreatitis. And so now we're kind of doing some lab testing to see what the root is of that chronic pancreatitis, because that's an inflammatory condition. So today we're going to discuss the exhausted brain, what causes the exhausted brain, how does environmental uncertainty or chaos contribute to the exhausted brain, as well as how does the brain make predictions in both addiction and trauma, which can put us into our sympathetic nervous system. It's important. I'm on this one. It's important that we don't get stuck in our own modality, which is so easy to do because we look through our own lens, but that we consider collaborating with other modalities to improve outcomes with our clients. And so we use combined modalities of psychotherapy, functional medicine, psychiatric medication, and neuromodulation. So let's talk about what exactly is environmental uncertainty. The brain is a highly sophisticated prediction-making machine, goes about the day making predictions about what could happen to help us survive or hopefully thrive. In the brain, there are special types of neurons which compare predictions and reality, and they take information from our senses, then make predictions from previous experience. When our predictions line up with what we understand from our memory, which is our hippocampus, then we can rest and digest in the safety of our parasympathetic nervous system. When our reality and our predictions do not match up, our sympathetic nervous system activates. So if we look at just the concept of gaslighting, these particular partners, and addicts can be gaslighted also, they're often living in a sympathetic state, and they don't necessarily know why. They just know that things aren't adding up. So our brain has special cells called prediction neurons that help us guess what might happen around us. It's like a built-in fortune teller, right? And these neurons keep our world moving forward, keep us safe. If everything lines up, life is good. We can be in the flow of life. If things are not lining up and we have previous experience where things did not line up, previous trauma, then our brain activates our fight or flight system to try to understand the discrepancies. Most of this process is done in milliseconds and is pre-conscious, so you don't know that you're living in that state. And this state may feel like a normal state. On the other hand, you can go, on the other hand, error neurons compare what happened to what was predicted. They notice when there's a mismatch between reality and the prediction, and then they alert the brain to move into that more sympathetic or active state. Again, error neurons come up when there's something expected. Things are not matching up. And we see this in the assessment that Heather talked about called the event-related potential. We'll show a stimulus and then a stimulus, and they're supposed to press the button if it matches up, right? And so we show one stimulus, and it's the right stimulus to press the button. Then we show the second stimulus, and it's not. And we can see that that brain has anxiety around the mismatch. And that's not uncommon in our partners. It can create great stress. And many partners struggle with this. There's another marker that says, okay, picture 1 and picture 2 match up. And so I press the button, but wait, I need to go back and check and make sure. And that is more obsessive compulsive. So notice that the error and prediction neurons are located in areas associated with PTSD, our sensory organs, our motivational centers for addictions, and our limbic systems. So let's talk a minute. You can go on. About the betrayed. And let's look at a simple concept. Partners who get triggered or activated easily when talking with the betrayer. They're hypervigilant in what they see due to immense trauma that came from discovery and disclosure. They see a facial expression, the brain makes a prediction that there's danger. They become hypervigilant because it could mean that he'll act out again. This brain may have predicted danger, but it may not have actually been in danger. As clinicians and coaches, we have to help them to understand where their systems may be overactive in predicting danger and where they may need to pay attention. It's a process of recovery and healing. It's harder to do this healing when the betrayer is still acting out or perhaps is sober, but still has behaviors associated with addiction. For this work, a lot of times I work with the body, with both with the partner, to help her get in touch again with her gut feelings and the wisdom that's in her body. Okay, let me put it all together. No, you're good, Heather. Let me put it all together. There are many other types of errors, but the one I mentioned caused hypervigilance, a state of living constantly in the sympathetic nervous system, and this can lead to adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue, sleep disturbances, emotional exhaustion. PTSD involves a disruption in the brain's ability to make accurate predictions about the environment, particularly regarding safety and danger. People with PTSD tend to overestimate the likelihood of future danger, even in neutral situations. And some situations, typically inherited from childhood, they may actually underestimate the possibility of danger. But that is for a talk for another time. The disruption of the sympathetic arousal leads, one slide back still. That's okay. The sympathetic arousal leads to hypervigilance, where individuals are constantly on high alert, expecting danger. And this results in frequent prediction errors as the brain's expectations of threat don't match the actual environment. These particular clients with PTSD, so our brains update. If they see something and they predict it and their prediction is wrong, then they can update it. Let's say you're looking at a park, you see something that looks like a bush, and you're predicting, okay, that's going to be a bush, but it ends up being a dog. Then your brain updates, okay, so a dog looks like this, right? With PTSD, brains don't update as well as they do if they don't have PTSD. So they're going to tend towards updating still towards danger. And that's why a lot of our partners get really, really stuck in this space of feeling danger in their nervous system, and why it's so hard. There are a lot of reasons that it's so hard to get beyond that. And that can be for another presentation also. All right, Heather, I'm ready for the next one. And so this slide, I think, is a really important one for everybody, really. Living in stress consumes energy in the brain. And so this is a lot of studies were looked at to kind of understand what gets compromised when people are under different types of stress. So when you look at psychological stress, you can see that 30% of your energy expenditure is compromised, right? And if we add on sleep alterations and anxiety, then that's about 70%. That's a lot of energy that's being compromised with these different struggles that your brain is trying to figure out how to deal with. And so when we think about our partners, if you've just gone through, discovery and disclosure, then it's likely that, the reason that you're staying in bed, the reason you're not functioning to the degree that you thought you might function to, or that you used to be able to, is because your brain is functioning maybe on about 30% right now, because it's trying to figure out how we're going to proceed with life, right? And so this slide, I think, is very important for everybody to understand of how we can get compromised. So let's talk about the betrayer, the one who has the addictions. They tend to show errors coming from the anterior cingulate, the midbrain, which has dopamine neurons, the striatum, and the globus pallidus. Addiction predictions are more focused on the motivational system in addiction, as opposed to the danger system. Reward prediction error says, this motivates me, let's do it again. There's also, disappointment prediction error. And that says, that wasn't all that great. There's got to be something that will make me feel that way again, which creates escalation intolerance. Also, disappointment can be felt around the partner. She's not part of that feel good. And blunted reward sensitivity refers to a condition where individuals with addictions, their ability to feel pleasure from everyday rewards is diminished. They don't notice the beautiful sunset necessarily. They don't notice that perhaps there's a calmness. There was once a calmness in the relationship with the partner that felt good. And so the conflict becomes what motivates me versus what is boring. You can go on to the next. And in the brain, it's about the reward system, and it's gone awry. And motivation is coupled with reward without any other mitigating factors, such as, is this a good idea? Are there other things that can feel good also? Heightened reward is chased. And so addiction in the nervous system, when we're seeking, the sympathetic nervous system is activated, heart rates increase, blood pressure, heightened arousal, anxiety, elevated stress hormones. And then this leads to parasympathetic nervous system being suppressed, which is difficulty sleeping, difficulty relaxing, digestive issues, not socializing. And this imbalance between the sympathetic and parasympathetic causes struggles with regulation. Now, I actually don't see the exhausted brain as much in the client with the, you can go on to the next one, Heather, and the client with the addictions as I do in the partners. And what I make up about that as a possibility is that the client who has the addictions has more control in a sense that they are, whereas the partner, let me do it on the other side, whereas the partner, it doesn't know, they have less knowledge, and so they can't really affect their world in a sense, because they don't necessarily know, but yet they know on some level. And so with that, I often see partners more so with an exhausted brain than I do with the addict or the betrayer. And finally, prolonged stress causes elevated inflammation, a weakened immune system, and cellular struggles. And then the next slide, this is the next step in Dirk de Ridder's model is, let's expand it a little bit and say, okay, so genetic variations and environmental stressors, were we traumatized as a child? Did we have a happy childhood? That type of thing, create our microbiome, which creates our epigenetics. Epigenetics are the genes that can turn on and off. And so if we've had a rough childhood, and we have genes that show that our ancestors also had rough lives, then likely that stress is going to turn on the epigenetics, and we're going to end up with neuroinflammation, where we end up in a vulnerable place in our bodies. And so we end up with anxiety, depression, PTSD symptoms. Whereas if the epigenetics stay in place, we've had a good childhood that's healthy and feels good, and our genetics are pretty good, then we can have resilience, and we can kind of heal from our emotional struggles a bit quicker. So where does resilience reside in the brain, which is the next one? We have a network in our brain. We have different networks. We have the executive network. We have the emotional network. We have the salience network. We have the resting network. The salience network is our ability to switch from one network to another. It's kind of like a traffic guard. It guides where information needs to go depending on its relevance. And so if the relevance is dopamine, then it's going to direct traffic one way. If the relevance is danger, it's going to direct traffic another way. But it gets stuck. It gets stuck in the reward, or it gets stuck in the danger, right? And that's where the symptoms arise, is when our brain gets stuck, when it can't switch in between the networks like it needs to. And feel free to email us if you have, thoughts, ways that we can be better at what we're doing in terms of presenting and that type of thing. I would love that.